Effects of soil pollution. In this blog post, we will discuss the effects of soil pollution. Soil pollution is the contamination of the Earth's surface with artificial and natural toxic substances. Soil pollutants are often found in areas where industrial or agricultural activities exist. Soil pollution can have many adverse effects on humans and ecosystems. Some of these effects are more severe than others, but they all present a threat to human health and ecosystems. In order to help combat soil pollution, there are several steps you can take, such as using organic fertilizers instead of chemical ones, restricting access for heavy industry near sensitive habitats, and recycling hazardous waste products appropriately. Effects of soil pollution on human health. The soil on which we all walk is an ecosystem that sustains our life, yet it's often overlooked. The degradation of this environment can have adverse effects on human health. Certain conditions result from the accumulation of toxic chemicals in the ground and air pollution. Effects of soil pollution on human lives is substantial, but unfortunately, little research goes into studying its implications because there are so many other things to research right now, such as global warming or world hunger. Nonetheless, these studies should be prioritized before they worsen any further. The world used to be so clean and pristine, but now it's riddled with dangerous pollution. For example, the soil is such a huge concern because of how much people come into contact with earth in everyday life. Walking on dirt during yard work or eating vegetables that are grown from contaminated soil can lead to serious health issues like cancer. The effects of our polluted surroundings have been felt all across the globe, whether you're living near an oil spill or drinking water out of plastic bottles that leach toxic chemicals when heated up too quickly. Effects of soil pollution on animals. Some of the worst pollutants that are found in soil affect animals directly by entering their bodies through breathing. Inhaling these pathogens can cause a variety of different health problems, including asthma and cancer. When animals eat plants from polluted soils, they also suffer adverse effects on their digestive system, such as diarrhea or constipation, which may lead to death over time if untreated. Robins are one of the many different animals that seem to have been affected by soil pollution. Robins tend to eat earthworms, and in areas with high levels of heavy metals, those worms can poison robins' eggs, causing them not to be able to hatch or live for very long after hatching. Effects of soil pollution. Effects of soil pollution on plants. The roots of plants in soil contaminated with heavy metals and fertilizers are unable to take up nutrients, which can lead to stunted growth. These pollutants also harm the plant's ability to photosynthesize sunlight energy for food production. This phenomenon is called eutrophication, where both chemical and organic pollution threatens our water supply by feeding algae that cause toxic algal blooms downstream on freshwater ecosystems like lakes, estuaries or oceans. Polluting our soil is harmful to plants and the environment in more ways than one. When we use pesticides, they can eventually lead to an insect's population becoming resistant or immune over time because it no longer affects them as much. This means that when there are a lot of insects on crops, farmers will have to resort back to using harsh chemicals which could be potentially dangerous for us if consumed by humans directly, even though these products were not originally designed for human consumption. The effects may also differ depending on what kind of polluter was used. Some dioxin compounds might last up until 10 years after being applied, while other heavy metals like mercury don't always stay put once introduced into the soil but instead spread through waterways where fish absorb this chemical. Effects of soil pollution on climate change. When humans pollute the soil, it can cause a ripple effect that leads to climatic changes. When we harm the earth in any way, like by overfishing or releasing chemicals into our atmosphere without care for how they will affect life systems, there is an indirect impact on climate and weather patterns. This happens because soils are both sources of carbon dioxide, CO2, gas emissions as well as essential regulators of moisture content in plants' leaves during photosynthesis processes. When soil is polluted with human-created pollutants such as pesticides, fertilizers etc., this upsets its natural balance, causing it to become more acidic than before, which causes CO2 levels from plant respiration to go up, oxygen goes down, nitrous oxide production increases. Effects of soil pollution. Effects of soil pollution on ecosystem. Soil pollution is not only devastating to the local ecosystem, but it has a global effect as well. Toxic substances such as lead and mercury can accumulate in soil for decades or centuries after being split into our environment through industrial emissions or hazardous waste disposal sites. This reaction between toxic chemicals and nitrogen-rich organic matter produces nitrates that are found in fertilizer, which exacerbates this problem by increasing nutrient levels more than what plants need. These high amounts of nutrients cause plant species diversity to decrease over time because some types grow better when there isn't other competition nearby, like with invasive plants who have taken root all across North America, destroying natural habitats, such as wetlands. In addition, these excessive fertilizers promote an increase in algal growths from increased phosphate. When animals and plants are exposed to toxic levels of contaminants, they may become sick or die. The soil also contains trillions of microorganisms that can be killed by pollution. Toxic chemicals have a variety of impacts on ecosystems as well as the organisms that exist within them, such as mammals, insects, birds and fish. When these creatures ingest harmful substances from their environment through food consumption or environmental contact with polluted water, it could lead to death in many cases, while others will suffer ill effects like organ damage and illness due to digestive issues created because of poisonous toxins disrupt enzymes used for digestion. Effects of soil pollution on aquatic life. The toxic chemicals released through soil pollution can have a devastating effect on aquatic life. We know that these effects are often most pronounced in fish because they are susceptible to chemical changes, making them an excellent indicator of the health and safety of our water supply. Aquatic life is struggling with the effects of soil pollution. Discharges from farms and sewage systems carry nitrogen, phosphorus, mine tailings such as arsenic are significant sources for this contamination. These substances can make their way into water bodies through rain or stormwater runoff, where they pose a threat to aquatic organisms that rely on healthy fresh waters in order to survive. Certain types of plants depend heavily on clean running streams, while others, like ducks, need ponds that contain less oxygen due to overgrowth by algae, which thrives in polluted fresh water. The release of untreated wastewater also helps produce algal blooms because it provides essential nutrients, including nitrates and phosphorus, but when levels get too high, bacteria start breaking down organic matter, producing hydrogen sulfide gas and affect aquatic life. Effects of soil pollution on agriculture. In the last century, agriculture has lost more than half of its productivity because it is struggling with soil pollution. With pressure on agricultural production and a rapidly growing world population projected to reach 10 billion by 2050, this problem will only worsen if we don't act now. We need to stop toxins from getting into our environment so that farmers can continue to feed us all. In past decades, there has been a rapid increase in soil pollution. In the United States alone, over 4 billion pounds of fertilizer is applied to farmlands each year, and this causes nitrogen content levels to rise, which leads to fertile soils with low pH that are also vulnerable due to excessive acidity if not appropriately monitored. The good news is that when fertilizers like ammonium nitrate enter into these acidic environments, they produce ammonia gas instead of more plant-killing acids such as sulfuric or phosphoric acids. The soil will then become safer for crops because it contains fewer toxins than before, but you must be sure not to apply any extra nutrients on top, so avoid adding excess amounts of anything else besides water. Do all your research beforehand. Effects of soil pollution. Effects of soil pollution on global warming. Scientists have recently found evidence suggesting there may be more greenhouse gases being released into the atmosphere from agricultural soils than previously thought, which could lead to further climate change issues if not dealt with soon enough, according to recent research published in Nature Geoscience June 20. Agricultural soils cause global warming. In the past, people have been able to ignore the effects of soil pollution on global warming because they thought it was a minor issue. Now that scientists realize how much damage pollutants can do in this way, awareness is helping us take action and make changes, so we don't cause more harm than good. Effects of soil pollution on the economy. The most iconic example of soil pollution is the Great Dust Bowl in America. The drought conditions and agricultural practices led to widespread wind erosion, which dumped tons of topsoil in neighboring states, ruining crops all over again. The economic ramifications were catastrophic for these farmers because they had lost their livelihoods due to dirt-filled land that was no longer able to produce any food at a time when people needed it more than ever before. Soil pollution has a wide variety of adverse effects on the economy, including increased costs for farmland production and crop yields, reduced agricultural revenues, cleaner water supplies, due to decreased fertilizer runoff, and cost-effectiveness in municipal services. The soil in the world is under constant threat of contamination. This has been proven to have an adverse effect on agriculture, food production and international trade. The increasing chemical pollution of the Earth's surface will continue to provide a worry for all those involved with the global economy if it continues unabated, because not only does this put life at risk but also livelihoods, as well as people grow more dependent on imports for their survival rather than farming locally like they used to do before these problems arose. Effects of soil pollution on the ozone layer. Pollution from oil spills, agriculture, fertilizers and pesticides can make the soil more vulnerable to ozone-depleting chemicals. Most people would not know that soil can be a significant factor in ozone depletion. Carbon dioxide and other pollutants are released into the atmosphere as we burn fossil fuels, which contribute to stratospheric cooling and destruction of atmospheric ozone. But there is also evidence to suggest that nitrogen fertilizers applied on cropland may account for 0 to 2% or more of total global human emissions from agricultural sources, although this number remains controversial. Nitrogen fertilizer usage has increased substantially since the 1950s, with current estimates at 250 million tons per year globally. In comparison, carbon dioxide release due solely to burning fossil gas represents about 70%. Effects of soil pollution on acid rain. Soil pollution is a serious problem that contributes to acid rain. Soils contaminated with waste materials emit gases such as nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which react in the air due to sunlight exposure for the formation of sulfuric or hydrochloric acid. Soil pollution has become an increasingly prevalent issue over recent years, contributing significantly towards acid rain emissions through emission gases including nitrogen oxide, NOx, and carbon dioxide CO2. The way soil pollutants are reacted by moisture in the order from these acidic compounds can be traced back from when they first enter our environment during their creation process. Our soil is being polluted, which in turn leads to acid rain. Soil pollution has been on the rise for years now, and coupled with all of our other problems, and it's no wonder why there are so many people getting sick, especially young children. Effects of soil pollution on non-living things. A recent study has found that soil pollution can have disastrous consequences on rocks. Polluted soils contain high concentrations of acid, which corrode the surface and make it more soluble in water. This causes runoff from rain to dissolve minerals out of rock surfaces, altering their appearance over time. The results were primarily observed when rainfall was acidic as opposed to neutral or basic solutions. However, these types are also discussed within this article for those interested in reading about them. Effects of soil pollution on the mountains is significant. A single truck could contain enough waste to destroy 10 acres of soil, and that one spill can affect an entire mountain ecosystem for years if not correctly cleaned up. Experts estimate it would take hundreds or even thousands of trucks filled with fresh soil in order to restore some semblance of balance back into these areas, but this is impossible when you consider how many vehicles are out there carrying garbage every day.